Soup's going in the freezer, you're taking it out for lunch.
Okay, that sounds good to me, maybe.
Could have gone outside tonight, but you chose to invite kids.
I don't have to.
Good morning, everybody. So far, I've got just a few early birds joining me, so let me just say hello to those of you who have come online so far. So far, I can see Barry, Chris, Chris Files as well, so that's Chris Hutton, Chris Files. I can see Hank, Jamie, Joanne, John, Julie, Kevin, Mark, Marta. Hello, Marta. How are you doing? Pop us a message in the chat box. Not spoken to you for quite a long time. Michael, I've got Noor Karim, Pat, Rob, Roy, Sally. I've only got a few people on here compared to the registration so far, so hopefully everybody will pile in the next few minutes. But I've got Sally, Sam, Sundri and Tariq so far, so welcome everybody. I have had just over 100 register and I've just read about 20 of those names out so far, so hopefully there will be an influx coming in the next few minutes. Can you, I've not seen Marta type into that chat box yet, so hopefully Marta will be able to use the chat box. Forgive the lines on me. I have a perfect blind that just blocks out the sunlight for these things, and of course it's just in that bad position now. It's just coming through onto me through the gaps. Right, I could do with at least one person verifying you can hear me, because I've not had anything in the chat box yet. So if anybody who's listening and is able to just type in the chat box, I don't care if I get lots of yeses in there, as long as I get something that tells me you can hear me. That's brilliant. Thank you very much. The observant of you may see that the position of me and the background is slightly different from normal. The last time I ran one of these webinars, I started having a few technical issues with my computer, and that is now on the floor down there, and I'm using a standing one, so the position's a little bit different, and I'm just a bit nervous about the technology. So hopefully I am loud and clear, and that's fantastic. So brilliant. If by any chance you do struggle to hear me at any point, I have a tendency to lean back, and I think the mic on this is quite close range. Let me know and I can pop in my microphone headset, but I prefer not to use it if I can help it. Right then, okay, so I make it just text should be okay. Yeah, well, exactly. I always have my Tigger in the AVN colours as well, so thank you for that. Right then, okay, let me fire up my, I've got lots more people have joined us now, so welcome those of you who have joined since I said hello to everybody. Yeah, that number is gradually on the increase as well. So what I'll do to start with, I'm just going to fire up my slides, and I'll just talk you through what the agenda is for this presentation, etc., and then we'll get started. By then I should think that everybody will be joining us. Right, so that's sharing my second screen and launch my presentation. Oh, I just need to put my chat box back in front of everything now. So chat box is there and my attendees is there. Brilliant. Okay, so let's progress. So again, welcome to those of you who have joined us since. Hi Shabazz, I see you've got your hand up. Hopefully that's just a wave. If you've got any questions, just pop them into the chat box. And hello all of you who have said hi Shane into the chat box as well. Right, so obviously my presentation is always start. I'm going to introduce myself, a little bit about AVM, because there's quite a few new people on here that haven't listened to my presentations before, so a brief introduction. Then I'll get straight to the main content, which is award-winning ways to practice success. A little bit more about that obviously in due course, but ultimately I should be sharing that with you. I would like to then take a bit of a break, if you like. It's a commercial break, and offer you the opportunity to join me on one of our full events. So I should be just taking a short break to do that. Obviously, I would like to just to break off and do that just by way of offering that opportunity to you. But then I will be resuming My slideshow's a little bit messed up again, but anyway, I will be resuming the rest of that presentation then. I will be offering you at the end of it a bonus in the form of a comprehensive report, but it's actually a practice diagnostic tool that you can go through. I suspect maybe some of the people that are listening on here have gone through that in the past, and there'll be some of you that haven't, so I will mention that at the very end. I've also got an extra little goodie here, which is a reward for action. Joanne, just seen your message that says you need to leave by 11:30. That's fine. My aim is that I am going to keep this to 60 minutes. I think I say this often and go over by a few minutes, but I will do my best to keep it to the to finish at 11:30. Finally, then we've got questions and answers. Okay, so I've got a lot more people now who have joined us, so why don't we just get cracking. So let me do the introduction. A little bit about AVN. We are AVN. We stand for Inspiring Accountants. Inspiring accountants to become much more inspiring to the businesses that they work with, to deliver much more added value and business advisory to their clients, as well as us inspiring them to grow and develop their practice in many more ways. So we are ultimately a coaching and training organisation for accountants. We are a nationwide community of independent accountants, and just emphasis on that word independent. We're not trying to create franchises. We help accountants to create the type of practice that they want to create, and that might be fairly different for every single person. We help them through this 7-stage signature roadmap. Today we've helped over 2,700 accountants in practice. We celebrated our 20th year just a couple of months ago was its birthday. Through those accountants, we've better served, better helped to survive and thrive over 380,000 businesses, and through our extended reach, both through our community of accountants and ourselves, we've impacted on over 9 million lives through the givings that we do. From a personal point of view, my purpose is enabling people's ability to make better lifestyle choices. And this is in 3 key areas. One is, and those of you who've known me for a while will know that I do a lot of fundraising and sponsorship events to help people that have suffered brain injury, and I raise money for charities that help people better recover from brain injury, because the brain obviously is ultimately responsible for our ability to make choice in the first place, and people with brain injury don't have that luxury sometimes of having choice about their lifestyle in any way, shape or form. I do what I can also through that B1, G1 and other givings through the business to help people in developing more impoverished parts of the world to have better choice about their lifestyle, from a hygiene, from a cleanliness point of view, all of those types of things as well, and getting education. And of course, I help business owners and specifically accountants to get to a point where they're able to make better lifestyle choices, moving away from that feeling that they have no choice but to work endless amounts of hours just to pay the bills, just to put food on the table, etc., and get them into a better position as well. I've written a number of books so far, either written them or co-authored, and I've got another one on the go at the moment. I suspect it's about 3/4 complete, and I'm really getting more and more excited about that book, really looking forward to get that out there as well. So each of those books are all designed to help and inspire business owners and accountancy practice owners to ultimately achieve a much better work-life balance. Personally, some of my beliefs, I mentioned my purpose, and it's about lifestyle choices. My lifestyle choices include doing more stuff with my family, spending as much quality time as possible with them, and also exploring the world. Here's a picture, I'd say recent, it was actually March now, when me and my parents and my kids and my wife all went to China and explored various parts of that, and that's something that I really enjoy, combining those types of things as much as possible. Okay, so this presentation, I'm going to be talking about specifically how the award-winning firms that I'm going to be talking about very shortly, how they achieve much better clarity in their practice. That's stage 1 of our roadmap. How they positioned their practice so much better. that's stage 2 in our AVM roadmap, and how they delivered much more value to their clients. So therefore generating much better fee income, but also for achieving, ultimately doing less work, putting less effort in to achieve that income, because they're delivering much more value rather than doing much more of the sort of legwork, if that makes sense. If not, hopefully will do very shortly. They are the first 3 elements of our 7-stage roadmap. Okay, couple of admin things. Many of you have already tapped into the chat box, but because I've had quite a few more people come on, please do just give us a yes in the chat box, and I shall get a gauge to make sure the majority of the people can hear me, and that you've found the chat box. So if you can't find the chat box, if you wave the mouse on the screen where you can see my slides and myself, then you'll get the option to pull up the chat box. So I'm getting lots of yeses in there. That's fantastic. Okay, brilliant. Yep. Okay, that's cool. Another thing I just want to point out at this time is that in the webinar I ran about 3 or so weeks ago, somebody jestfully put in the chat box, and I think probably just to find out whether it was a live event or not, they just put, you know, stop pretending it's live. And obviously I responded to that instantly, because this is live. It's not one of those pre-recorded things. I'm not just sat back and letting these things happen on an automated basis. I've put the time in to prepare for this particular presentation. I'm delivering it live right now. If you want to throw anything in the chat box just to challenge me on that, you're more than welcome to. Obviously, I will answer any questions that you've got live. I can answer them straight away, and my aim is to deliver as much value as I can in this presentation. My request, therefore, is that you give me your focus. I do get stats on screen to say how much people are actually paying attention to this, or if they're going off doing other emails and things like that. So as you can imagine, that can be a little bit demoralizing from my point of view when it's showing my stats in front of me that people are going off doing other things. Now, I appreciate you might have got Notepad loaded up and maybe you're typing in notes, so I accept that can happen. But ultimately, what I'd love right now is for you to just confirm in the chat box, are you going to give me your undivided attention for the next 50 minutes now? So getting lots of yes in there, and that's really appreciated. Really, I'm just after a show of commitment. So thank you very much for that. Right then, brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. Right then. Okay, so award-winning ways to practice success. And as I say, this is kind of split into 2 parts as well. Let me just give you that scenario that you'll have seen in my original email that I sent out. Ultimately, when we set up our business, whether that's an accountancy practice, whether it's a plumbing business, a car spraying, but it doesn't matter what it is, what we tend to do when we think, I know, I'm going to set up my own business, I'm going to have 100% choice about how many hours I work, I'm going to have lots of holidays, I'm going to pay myself lots of great rewards, things like that. I'm loving your French, by the way, Mike. We define a certain amount of capacity out of our lives to assign to that business, don't we? And we feel that we're gonna appropriately apportion our time between running the practice, spending time with our family, spending time with our friends, and spending time on our health, keeping fit, or just doing stuff that's important to us, whether it's personal hobbies, things like that, because we need to unwind, don't we? And sadly, the reality in so many cases is that the business, the practice, starts to gradually dominate more and more of that time at the expense of our family, our friends, and our health. Can you relate to that? Just give us a yes or a no in the chat box. Has that happened to you? Is that happening to you? Yep, so getting some yeses in there. Yeah, okay, I appreciate your comments as well there, Joanne. Not at the moment, that's great there. So, and ultimately we want to avoid that from happening, don't we? And that's what's incredibly important. So even if it's not happening now, we want to do something about it to make sure. For me, getting to that point means that actually we're quite, something's inefficient, isn't it? Because we should be able to, there are lots of great business owners out there that absolutely have got this nailed. They are generating a great income. They're delivering lots of great value. They're serving their clients incredibly well, and it's within a sensible amount of time as well, so that, and they're able to switch off when they leave, which obviously therefore suggests that those of us who are working, I'm sorry, I'm pointing my right because that's where the slides are. Those of us who are working lots of hours, we must be doing something wrong. I think that's fair to say, isn't it? So the question is, what are we doing wrong? What can we do to make that much more efficient capacity? Often that feeling means that, we feel like we're just drowning in paperwork. We're up to our neck in it, whatever that it might be for you. And it's not a good place to be, is it? Because we start to feel much more stressed, anxious. Relationships at home can start to take strain, etc. And really, a business is there to serve you and not the other way around. Business is a means to an end ultimately. So some of the challenges that I see accountants, in fact most people in business quite frankly, face are they become a slave to their clients. They're at the beck and call all of their time. Their clients phone them up, they expect them to make stuff happen instantly, drop of a hat service. They're demanding rock bottom fees. They're telling you that the accountant up the road is X amount of money, so therefore why can't you at least match that or beat that? And quite often that's self-inflicted as well, because how many times do you look through the accounts and think, well, this is what the other accountant was doing, I'm going to undercut that. They'll have a phone call with you. You come away thinking, right, that's extra work. They think that was just included, and then there's fee disputes happening. They hold you to ransom. They say, well, the accountant bureau can do it if you can't. I can soon take my business elsewhere, leaving you feeling that you've no choice but to just to do this and add to your own work burden. They don't want to pay for business advisory services. They don't even take your advice if you give it to them for free half the time. So they don't appreciate it, and as a consequence of that, you don't feel that you're doing fulfilling, enjoyable or profitable work for anybody. The consequences of those things are that, as I've mentioned already, your clients are demanding your time all of the time. You're in client meetings, you're doing the client work or double checking the client work. If you've got employees, they're not necessarily giving you a return on investment because they're bringing you more problems and solutions. When you're that busy, you do run the risk of making errors. We can only do so much. We're all human, aren't we, at the end of the day? Customer service can start to suffer. We don't get the time to spend with our best customers. We don't get a chance to work on the business. And other things like technology and legislation changes, we just struggle to get the time to make sure that we're up to date with all of those things. Consequences on our income, it's poor profits. If we're having to try and compete on price with people, then the profits are taking a dip, which means obviously we're working more hours as well. The cash flow can be up and down. Employees, again, if they are bringing you more problems and solutions, if you're having to spend your time with them, then they're more of a cost than getting returns. I've spoken to people who just struggle to pay the bills because their cash flow and their profits are in such a state. They're competing with cheap accountants, fee pressure, fee disputes, all of those types of things just mean that your profitability is diabolical. And from an enjoyment point of view, not enjoying it, quite often you feel that the employees don't care because they usually, tools down at 3 or 5 or whatever time they might finish. You often feel, well, they've gone now, they've got not a care in the world, and you're the one spending 70, 80 hours a week just trying to make everything work. And you can get hostility from clients because they think, well, why haven't you done this for me yet? At home, as I say, relationships can be strained or even ruined. We've seen so many accountants who've had a divorce because their wife or their husband is just fed up of them not being there. It's unfulfilling, it's not enjoyable, is it? So I think you get the message. And of course, just to use this slide, I use this slide on a regular basis. Einstein said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And quite often we do. We keep doing these things thinking things will get better. this time next year, we'll be millionaires if we just carry on doing what we're doing. And the reality is that it doesn't happen that way, does it? We have to stop doing the stuff that we're doing and just change, well, do something different, obviously, to get different results. What I'm going to be doing in this presentation is sharing with you the common threads taken from the people you can see there on that photograph on stage, and many others as well, the award entrants for this year's AVN Awards. And what I did, I went through all of those entries, and several of them were several pages long. It took me a very long time. I'm just looking for what are the common threads amongst every single one of them. What do they all have in common that's meant that they're getting the incredible successes that I'm going to be sharing with you in this presentation, and I shall share what each of those are. So all of the award entries fell into these different categories, from business clarity, practice differentiation. You've got to differentiate your practice. You've got to be seen as very different from the competition before people will be more receptive to you offering, say, business advisory type services. If you differentiate yourself enough from the competition, then they can't compare you on price as well. You know, you're offering something very different in their eyes. And things like that. So these are all the different types of categories that people would enter for, and they really mirror the roadmaps in the AVM roadmap. So clarity, positioning, value, etc. So I'm going to be sharing with you those. The first one is business clarity. What did they all do to get absolute clarity about what they want to do with their practice? Because once you've got a clear vision and strategy in place, then you can reverse engineer that back and start to work through this bit by bit. Then all of a sudden you can start to realize your dreams, your vision, because you're enacting an action plan. So what did they all have in common? Well, first of all, one of the most common things that they all did, and bear in mind these are AVM members, so I'm talking about what they did as an AVM member, but you can apply this yourself. So one of the things that they all did, of course, is that they connected with their practice growth expert, which is a coach that fits our criteria. You can find a coach. What's important really is connecting with somebody who's going to challenge your thinking, challenge the status quo, and give you some advice, give you some mentoring, give you some suggestions on different things that you can do. So connect with a coach. All of these people obviously connected with the AVN coach that we supply, and other AVN members as well. There's nothing more valuable than tapping into someone who's going to be 100% open with you and share what they did that got success in their practice. And quite often you can't walk into the next accountant down on the same street or in the same area as you, because they see you as competition, so they're going to be very closed, whereas AVM members are much more open. So if you can get into one of those types of forums where you're with other accountants that are going to be just as willing to share, then that is incredibly important. Having people as a sounding board, getting advice from people and tapping into other people's expertise. So that's one of the things that they all had in common. You've got to be absolutely crystal clear about what you really want. And this is something that they all had in common. They all had defined what their own personal purpose was. I shared mine with you, and they've all got clarity about what theirs is as well. They've defined their personal goals. That's much more important. Your practice is a means to achieving a lifestyle for you. So you've got to define, what do I want to get out of my life, first of all? And then you can structure your business vision, your practice vision, to make sure that that is going to enable your personal goals to happen. So what's your business vision? And they all have absolute clarity over that and what their business goals are. That's going to enable that. So for me, the goals are specific targets, whether that's financial, whether it's the number of hours they work, or various different areas in there, that they're the specific goals. The vision is just how you see that future looking. The goals are much more tangible, if you like, and maybe much more measurable and in the closer, shorter term. All of these in different ways had mentioned what kind of restraints they'd removed from their life. So let me give you an example. One of the entrants, okay, I'm jumping the gun. First of all, self-limiting beliefs. It's so easy to think, you know, in my area, my clients or the businesses in this area aren't going to be receptive to this type of stuff, or, you know, I've got the wrong team, or I'm working with the wrong clients, or this or that. And these are just self-limiting beliefs. And what they all did was they realized that if this has worked for so many other people, it will work for me. So they've got their idea of what they want to achieve in their practice. The reverse engineered that right down to the action plan that they're going to enact, and they just did it step by step. None of this, oh, what if, what if, what if. One of the award entrants was in a franchise when they first joined AVN. And what they I'm not going to name the franchise or that person because that would be unfair, but ultimately they realized that the franchise company wouldn't allow them to deliver some of the value, take the approach, things like that they wanted to. Now, it took her 2 years to get out of that particular franchise. There are different ways that she could have done it, but that was the way that she felt most comfortable achieving this. And once she got out of that, so in other words, she removed that restraint, then she was able to do everything that she wanted to in the way that she did as well. So that really worked for her. So she got out of that was a restraint. We've had people who also applied to say that before I could achieve what I wanted to do with my practice, I had to say goodbye to my business partner. So that's an example as well. Sometimes the clients that you're working with aren't right. They're not enabling you to deliver the types of services that you want. So, you know, ask yourself the question. And just as a recent aside here, I visited one of our members. Again, I'll not reveal who that was, but based a couple of hundred miles away from here. Visited him a few weeks ago, and he was so frustrated because he wants to deliver, he's got a purpose, he wants to deliver a certain service, and there's a lot of his clients that just don't fit into that. And he had to make the very tough decision, I'm just going to ditch these clients so I can afford the time to spend with my other clients and do what I really want to do, and then look for more clients like them. So that was a tough decision, but ultimately an important one. Likewise, team members. Sometimes you just don't have the right team on board to enable you to deliver what you need to do. And then finally, and this is rare, and obviously we don't like to break up marriages, but sometimes if you're living with somebody who's saying you can't do this, you're not going to be able to do that, you're not good enough to do that, that's happened before, so I'm saying this more for completeness. People have actually gone separate ways there. Now that's a horrible story, of course, but more for completeness, I'm putting that one in there. So I mentioned the clients before, didn't I? One of the things that they all did consistently that freed up a lot of their time initially, early on in that, was that they did an 80-20 on their client base. Not in terms of fee income, but on profitability. How much time are you really spending with some of these people? And some realised that actually some of our biggest fee income were the least profitable clients, because they might have been paying a lot, but they were demanding so much time, their books and records were diabolical, or whatever the different reasons were, that they were actually unprofitable. So what they did was they did the 80-20 on them. They realised in many cases, in fact, most of them were around the 80. Some said 79%, some said 90%, but ultimately that 80% of the income was coming from just 20% of their client base. To free up lots of time in a very short space of time, they just ditched the bottom 10%, sometimes 20% in other cases, proportion of their clients that just freed up a lot of their time straight away. They took control. You know, I mentioned earlier, you've got to make sure your business isn't running you, that you're running the business. And sometimes people feel that they have too much control. They're control freaks. So I think, you know, you've got to get that balance right between taking control and letting go of certain things as well. So in some cases, reluctantly initially, they felt that, well, actually, I can outsource some of this stuff because it's just going to free up my time. So they've outsourced it. They've got different pieces of software in place. Ultimately, they've made the decision on what they're going to keep control of and what they're going to let go of as well. You can't do everything. You can't manage and micromanage everything. they all had consistently a crystal clear strategy in place. From defining their visions, reverse engineering that, they had their strategy. Now, AVN helped people with that because we have our 7-stage roadmap, which is on a macro level, and behind each level of that, it goes right down onto a micro level, step by step, what people can do to achieve their practice. It's about implementing standards. We've also got AVN Excellence. Ultimately, we can help people on that journey. From your point of view, if you're not working with AVN, getting a strategy in place is incredibly important. Reverse engineering what it is that you want to achieve right back to where you are now so that you can start to enact those actions. You've got to track the progress as well. So every single one of them had one-page plans in place. They were tracking their progress throughout and having regular meetings to say, where are we now compared to where we should be? What action do we need to take to get us on track? Every single one of them, without fail, allocated time to work with their number one client. Their number one client is, of course, their own accountancy practice. So they scheduled time. In some cases, it was a couple of hours a week. In some cases, it was a day a week. In other cases, it might have just been one day a month. Ultimately, it's about what can you afford to apply to your practice right now with the view of maybe increasing that in due course. And they all recognize that we don't all move at the same pace. Some of us want to break it down to very small micro steps, and others can take much more giant leaps. And all of them broke down their actions into something that they each felt comfortable with and they could take their team through as well. So some of us basically move at lightning pace, and we've got some of the people that had made these entries that had just achieved phenomenal results in a very short space of time. And other people, it was pigeon steps, it was bit by bit achieving, and so they achieved the same results, but it might have taken them longer. And that's fine, because as long as you're making progress, it doesn't matter, does it? As long as you're making that progress in the right direction that you want to. But it's about appreciating the pace that you feel most comfortable about moving at, and again, setting the milestones in so that you don't feel overburdened, overpressured. It's just got to work for you and your team. So they were the common things that all of the entrants for the Clarity Award had in place. So the second award is about practice differentiating. This is about positioning your practice so that it's different, or perceived as very different, from the competition. Just type in the chat box for me, please. What word springs to your mind when you see that logo? Okay, brilliant. So we can all see straight away that is ultimately Disney. And it is. And we see that logo and we instantly think of Disney. But we think of a little bit more than that as well, don't we? When we think of Disney, we think about, there are lots of other associations that instantly happen in our head. Thank you, by the way. It looks like every single one of you has responded there. So that's reassured me that you are still listening, and I appreciate that. We think of lots of things as well. I've experienced Disney in so many different ways. I've been to their theme parks, and the experience is absolutely outstanding. I've seen their films. I would trust any Disney film to just leave my kids watching those films without fearing that there might be language in there or inappropriate behavior in some way. So there are lots of instant associations I have with Disney, in addition to just knowing that title is associated with that logo. That's because they built a brand. And when you build a brand, it's not just about having a color scheme and a name. It's ultimately about creating those associations in the minds of the people that will start to know your brand. So the second that they see your logo, they instantly know what's your vision, what are your aspirations, what are your values, what's your reputation, how great your quality is, your value proposition. All of those different things will be instantly associated with your brand. And that's what the people who applied for the practice differentiation have been working on and achieving lots of success in delivering. And just to take, just to really show you what I mean by this. I see so many accountants' websites that all effectively say the same. They may have got different coloured backgrounds. They may have got different images on the screen. And, you know, a great website isn't about having flashy images. It's about really what message does it deliver. Sadly, I see so many accountants' websites that all say the same kind of things. So, you know, we're accountants and business advisors. We're proactive. We're forward-thinking accountants. And then they all go on to say our services include compliance accounts, payroll, audits, bookkeeping, business advisory, those types of things. And again, it doesn't matter how many different flashy, jazzy images you have on there. Most people, they say the same thing. And one of the reasons for that is because they use graphic designers who just think, oh, I know, I've got an accountant's template, let me use that, and then we'll just put whatever flashy images they want in place. So that's not a great example of a website. And I will share some of the award entrance websites with you in a moment. But one thing that these all lack, and you know, Google your own rivals or check out your own and see what really that message that's portraying. One of the positioning events I tend to run is that, you know, Aristotle, and there are many other people who've written books that are variations on this exact theme. Aristotle said, you know, you need to communicate on these three levels: ethos, pathos, and logos. What do they mean? Well, ethos really is about establishing that trustworthiness, your reputation, your tone, your style. We can do that on websites by establishing that sort of, you know, level of credibility by saying, what are your qualifications? I think most accountants do that, where FCAs or where ACCA and all of those ones that aren't springing to my mind right now. There are lots of them, but it's about establishing that. Having testimonials on screen and various other things is going to reassure people on that ethos element. You've got the logos, which is really about the logic, the rationalization. And this is about having the, you know, the reasoning, the arguments, the facts and figures in there. And you can talk about what the, you know, the impact that you have with your customers on there. So it might just be that you say, we help people save X amount of tax, or we help people work less hours by X amount. So you can start putting some numbers on there. Most accountants probably are great at the facts and figures, but don't necessarily talk about the outcomes in tangible form. And then the one that most accountants tend to miss out, and I'm saying most deliberately, I'm sure maybe some of the people listening now have got this nailed, is the emotion side. And that's one of the most powerful drivers that human beings have, the emotional side. So by sharing what your personal dreams are and aspirations, you know, I want to help people in this way, and these are the types of business that we love to work with. That's a powerful why. The stories of where you've helped people achieve things that fit into that vision as well. People love stories because stories are generally emotional and they'll have that impact. So putting those things on there as well, incredibly important. I'm not going to go too much into that right now. I have separate webinars for those things, just to share some of these things. Now, this is Val Wishart. She's based in Edinburgh. Her website is, you know, it doesn't mention on that first thing there, we do compliance, we do payroll and all of that lot. And if you scroll down on hers, I don't know why I didn't record that part, it talks about how she helps business owners achieve ultimately a much better successful business, which affects their personal life as well. The numbers again, that's their kind of mission, their motto, and that's the first thing you see when you visit their website. MDH, again, they all have these different types of setup rather than just saying we do compliance, we do etc. I love this one of Lawrence and Co's as well. In fact, I'll give you a run through on that, how that works. But he's got this tree that is made up of the most common words that his customers have used in their testimonials and case studies. CPT, this is the guy who won the Firm of the Year. And again, none of these start with we do compliance, tax, and those things. Another example here. So we've got lots of great examples of different types of websites here. They all differentiate themselves as well by producing great collateral, whether it's brochures, writing their own book, and in many of these cases we help accountants produce their own book, which seriously differentiates them from their competition. they have their values on screen as well. So they talk about what's important to them, what the type of people are that they really enjoy working with, because by sharing the values, that will either attract the people that are right for them, but it will also detract the people who aren't, and that's going to save you a lot of pain in the long term by detracting the people who aren't right for you early doors. So Val, for example, shares hers, MDH shares his, and he does go into much more detail on these as well on his website, and also differentiates by this credibility side as well. So from an external point of view, what are his sort of the accreditations and things like that he's been awarded? Because if you're showing that you've got awards, then what that's saying is that actually somebody else external has recognised the great stuff that you're doing, and that has a massive social proof impact on a potential customer. So having those things on there. Grant Jones, for example, featuring the Business Owner's Guide to the UK's Best Accountancy Practices. So they show that. That's the first thing you see on their website, etc. This is what I wanted to show you as well. So this is an automatically built tree based on the most commonly used words. And what happens on here is you click on one of those words and it automatically pulls up all of the case studies and testimonials that have featured those words in there. So as you saw from that, some of them go back quite a way, but it's just that backlog of everything. Now, obviously, reasoning in his case, reasonable has come up the most times, which is why it's the largest. But a customer might see a word that resonates with them, and they can read those words. They all have their mission statements, their purpose statements, if you like, nailed and prevalent on their website as well. So show them the past, will show you the future, making lives better, help women in business. That's Starfish's motto. And as you can see, they're all very different, unique to them, but they will have some meaning to the reader, the person that's looking. It's not just about websites, by the way. It's about building this into all of your communication, and that's what they do. Social proof, I mentioned that by the fact of, social proof, somebody else has recognised the great awards that you've had, the level of sort of quality standards. Here's another example. So I typed into Google, plumbers near me, just to see what came up. And what I can see here is that there are 3 businesses that have come up, but one of them stands out over and above the rest, and that's because that one's got ratings by other people. Now, it might be that he's got his family to do this for him, but nevertheless, that stands out. He's got 5 stars, whereas the others have got no ratings whatsoever. So what can you do in your practice to get that social proof? Let me just share with you what some of the award winners or the award entrants did in theirs. So for example, getting that social proof from testimonials on your website this is what other people have said about this company. That's incredibly important. I've already shared what Lawrence have done on there. That's the first thing you see and get access to. Something that Jackie did here as well, she gets a lot of her work through Yell.com, and she stands out because she specifically asks her clients to go into Yell.com and give a review on there. So compared to other accountants in her area or in her target market range, she's got 5-star ratings by, in that particular case when I took the screenshot, 12 people. This is a recent thing that she started doing and already started to see the great results of doing that. And it's very easy, isn't it? Just asking your clients, could you just nip on here and give us a review, please? Beyond the Numbers as well, Val Wishart, she did exactly the same with Google. That's the most common place where people are going to Google looking for an accountant in their area, aren't they? And so if she's got the highest rankings, then she's going to stand out over and above her competitors. And of course, getting recommendations in LinkedIn, that's one of the most common places that people will look for you as well. They're less interested in your practice name and more interested in your name. So they'll type your name in. Chances are you should come up in LinkedIn. And if you've got recommendations, then that's social proof from other people. Another thing they all had in common is that they became exclusive and specialized into their a niche, if you like. Now, a niche doesn't have to be an industry-specific niche. It can just be a set of specific challenges or a size of business that they prefer to work with, or maybe an aspiration of a business owner. So, for example, a member recently just said, I only want to work with business owners who are currently 1 million to 2 million in turnover, and they want to take it to 10 million and sell it. That's his niche. It doesn't matter what industry it is, that they're the people he wants to help. So defining what their perfect client looks like, maybe having sort of, maybe just outside of that, I will work with people, and then who are they going to refer on to another accountant, rather than trying to be all things to all people and taking on people that aren't floating your boat in the services that you deliver. And that's something that they all have in common as well. And positioning themselves better by just working with those people, but being very specific about how they'll work with them. Their values have to be in line. It's basically my way or the highway. And they all said, you have to bring your books and records in by this time. We're not going to be chasing you up and things like that. They form agreements on the way that their service will be delivered and accepted. So, you've got in our fixed price agreement, this is everything that you will get, but also this is everything that you won't get for that. So please don't phone us up expecting it to happen. There will be an extra fee. And it's about shaking hands and agreeing that in advance. They, for me, a massive positioning thing that a lot of accountants fall down on is that they give their customers their mobile phone. Sorry, I've missed the penalty notice one. They put penalties in place if they do bring their books and records in late, because they've agreed on that in advance. That's just part of the course. People will understand that. Okay, so penalty notices in place for late books and records. And also the mobile phone thing, that's a big pet hate of mine. People give out their mobile phone. Now, if you want your practice to have a mobile phone, great, but don't take it on holiday. Don't answer it outside of hours, because that's depositioning you as a professional. Yeah, maybe you could put a premium to that and say, if you want to call me out of hours, that's fine, but it's going to cost you X amount of money, because if you can't wait till the next day, it must be very urgent, in which case I'm going to apply some value to that, because you're affecting my family life here. Okay? And that's something that they've all done. Begrudgingly in some cases, but actually they've reaped the rewards of doing it. I've mentioned this already, it doesn't have to be a specific sector. It's just knowing the typical mistakes that happen, the problems that they face in that particular area, whatever. So as long as they understand what they want to achieve, they can help them do that. And they'll go through showing them their business potential and various other things. What they do then is they look at their own client base and they work out who are the closest fit to that perfect client, who's next, and who is absolutely not right for us. What they'll then do is they'll go through bit by bit, upgrading, having conversations with their clients in those different areas, and either upgrading them to the next rank up, and then whoever is left, then they're just saying, look, we're not right for each other. Let me introduce you to the accountant down the road. And they're refusing to work with the people who aren't their ideal client, and rightly so as well. Can I go back a slide, please? Let me just do that. Oops. You picked the one that takes the longest to render, but just give me a second. Why is it going back? Was that to that one, Joanne? So let me just, oh, no, okay. Which one? That one? Let me just pull it up. So there's that one. Oh, you don't see my slides, Marta. I'm not sure why that's happening. And then there's those two. Right, okay. So make your note very quickly, because I am monitoring the clock as well, and in true Shane style, I'm starting to run a little bit behind, so I'm going to hopefully accelerate my pace now. So let me just go to here then now. You can have a copy of these anyway if you need to, Joanne. Right then, Marta, I'm not sure why you're not seeing my slides. You absolutely should be, so we'll have to, it's been recorded as well, so I can get you a copy. Right, so all of those things come into better positioning yourself so price is not a factor. Now, the next category in there is about business advisory, and this is about adding much more value to your customers in a way that's going to help them build value in their business. Now, I'm going to take a short commercial break from that. I'm going to come back to it very shortly, but right now, I just want to get a feel from the audience listening. Yes, of course you can, Roy. Just give me an idea of your personal aspiration. Pick an A to D. Do you want to, you know, wherever you're at right now, most of you said at the very beginning, you can relate to that scenario that I talked about. What would your ideal be? £1 million practice on a 3-day week. These are absolute realistic case studies that we've experienced here before, by the way. So most of you are saying C right now. We've had some people who have built that £1 million practice on a 3-day week. We've had one, in fact, it's now £6 million practice on a 4-day month. Most of you have gone for sort of C's, but we've got some A's and we've got some B's in there as well. Interestingly, I'm not seeing a single D. Yeah. So, so some B's in there as well, which is great. And these are all doable. As I say, we've got real live case studies as well that show those things are possible. Okay, that's brilliant. So nobody's gone for D, which means actually in an ideal world, you'd all like to improve your practice in some way, even if it's just to achieve a better lifestyle, which is where the majority were, with some A's and B's in there as well. Can I ask you, and I appreciate some of the people on here have already got this sorted. Can I ask you, without any commitment, just check your diary and give me a free or not free, if you are free between the 12th to the 14th of March next year. Because in order to move away from that horrible, you know, inefficient capacity towards changing your practice, this 3-day event is something that could potentially help you. So, as I say, it's no commitment. Gives a free or not free in there right now. Joanne, I know you're already coming along anyway. Yeah, I get that, Mike. Thank you for that. Okay, so most of you are saying free. Okay. Right, okay, that's brilliant. What I'd like to do is just share with you what that masterclass consists of. I'm going to try and make this brief because I want to get this finished as well before 11:30 if I can. But ultimately, I would love for you to attend our three-day masterclass. It's 3 days away from your practice, and the most common testimonies we get is that it's the best 3 days people have ever spent, and I shall share with you somebody saying that as well in a moment. Okay, Alan. Okay, well, I'll not verbalise what you said there, Alan, but ultimately, obviously, I'll leave that to your discretion. You do have the ability, by the way, if you do book for this and you can't make it, you can get the refund as well if need be. But let me just share with you. From a bog standard features point of view, you get 21 hours of CPD. You'll understand, you know, how I see the future of the profession, what the current challenges are right now facing the profession, and obviously we'll give you the value. You get lunch and dinner included, and we'll buy you some drinks as well. That's the basic features. Ultimately, in terms of the value, we'll take you through in detail the full range of the 7 stages of the roadmap, starting with clarity, how you get your vision, how you define your purpose, how you reverse engineer that, how to better position yourself so the price is not the key differentiator, but actually positioning yourself as an expert in business, how to deliver much more value to your clients and get paid really, really well for it, how to then start to scale what you do through your team, through outsourcing, through being much more productive as well, how to really scale through getting systems in place and tapping into the right technologies, how to become much more sought after by raising your profile in your target market area, and how to become much more purposeful by way of we show you better business consulting methodologies that you can apply to your clients and how to promote those as well. So that's the kind of the benefits, if you like, what we'll go through. The outcomes are, and I'm not going to have time to read all of these out, but ultimately we get testimonial after testimonial after testimonial about how fantastic the masterclass in itself has been and the impact that people have done. So these are the afters, if you like, what they've gone away and applied and seen the benefits from. Here was following our last masterclass. Steve had asked some of the delegates, more on my behalf, you know, what impact did you find that the masterclass had had? Now, I love this one from Phil, and we've had very similar ones as well. You know, he said, what I didn't expect was to learn exactly how much more I could be doing for my clients. And well, you can read that probably faster than I can read this out, but it was a really nice sentiment there. We are incredibly passionate about helping accountants improve their practice. And just to emphasize, whether or not they join AVN, ultimately we deliver as much value as we can in that session. We collect video testimonials from people who are prepared to be in front of the camera. We collect a few each time. Just to draw your attention to these two, this is Peter Still. He travelled all the way over from Canada to attend this masterclass. That's 3,500 miles, and I recorded that testimonial from him. I'm not going to play that one right now. This is Renee. She travelled 4,000 miles from Chicago in the USA because she'd heard of the masterclass and she wanted to travel over, just the same with Peter, and experience it for herself. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to play this. It's less than a minute, her words on what she said. So I will need to mute myself so that the echo doesn't come through.
So the ultimate question was it worth travelling 4,000 miles to be here at this masterclass?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm thrilled to be here. This workshop has been profoundly impactful, probably the most impactful professional development workshop that I've ever attended, including my master's degree. The content has not covered anything about tax or compliance. We're covering general business strategies that would be applicable to anyone, anywhere in the world. Most of us are so busy running day to day, just meeting client needs and working with our team members, that we don't take the time to strategize.
So what recommendation would you give to anybody listening to this video right now?
Jump in feet first and give it a try. You won't know what you're missing until you're here, and believe me, you'd be missing a lot.
So, I mean, a wonderful testimonial there from Renee, particularly what she said about it being better than her master's, which was very nice of her to say. Also, just picking up on, thank you, Marta, for your kind words in there as well. So thank you very much. Let me just address maybe some of the concerns that you may be having right now. Is it going to be 3 days worth of one big pitch for AVN membership? Absolutely, categorically not. Yes, I do spend, I think it's between 10 and 15 minutes on day one talking about the opportunity of joining membership. The reason it's on day one is I think, right, let's get that out of the way. It's kind of the elephant in the room, isn't it? So let's get that out of the way, and I'll share the benefits of membership, and then the rest of it, you can relax, you can enjoy the 3 days, you can take away absolute full value from it without thinking that there's a big pitch coming. So yeah, I will share that, but we get it out of the way, and it's pretty quick. I think that it's only fair that we do deliver that bit of a pitch, but it's incredibly soft as well. Can I really justify spending 3 days away from the office? Well, I think Rennie pointed out that, you know, ultimately we do carry on doing the stuff that we've always done. Yes, of course you can, Christine. You can have a copy of the slides. We do spend a lot of time in the practice all the time. This is about spending 3 days away from it to really have a different idea about how you can go back and run that practice. And I think letting your clients, you know, just hang fire for a little bit. You can still check your emails. You can still return calls at lunchtime. This is incredible. Excuse me, important. Will I need membership to make the stuff that you learn happen? Absolutely not. The way that we structure masterclasses, we will teach you everything you need to go and do it yourself. Membership really is about accelerating that process with our help, making stuff happen so much quicker. If you feel that you can go and you know, have the discipline to action all of those things, then you will be able to do that. Absolutely no problem. We teach you everything that you need to do to go away and do this yourself. Okay, what questions do you have right now? that maybe I can address right now. So if you stick those, if you don't want other people to see what your question is, I don't have to read your name off. Just make sure it just says to all panelists, and then only I will see that, and I can address that just to the group. So if you've got any questions about masterclass, put them in there now. Whilst you're thinking about, if you do have any questions, let me just go through. I mentioned this slide earlier, didn't I, about the perfect client, the leeway, and who we refer on. We, of course, have our perfect client as well. Robert, yes, of course, no problem. The most suitable people for the masterclass really in ABN are between 1 and 3 partner firms. The reason for that is that anything more than 3 partners, you tend to start to really struggle to get more partners on board with this. So usually having an employee will help, that you can delegate stuff to and start to enact this. And having a turnover level of over 50k helps as well, because you've got a lot of the quick wins within your current client base. Okay, Sam. Okay, we'll look at that. But yeah, if you want to transfer that to March, of course, Sam will make that happen. Okay, leeway. We do have leeway, and the reason we have leeway over that is because actually we've seen some amazing results for people who have joined us generating under 50k and had no employees. In other words, they're a 1-person band. Some of them, you know, they maxed out their credit card to join. Now, I don't advocate that, and I won't do, you know, I won't push that in any way, shape or form, so I wouldn't like to think that we're putting people at risk. The reason why these have made it work, the ones that we have accepted, is because we've had a conversation with them and we felt, actually, I think they have got the right attitude to make this happen. Okay, so we will make those exceptions, but it's subject to a telephone call. And likewise, with over 3 partners, we've had some amazing examples of where maybe just one, in fact, 1 partner firm over in Manchester, sorry, a 9-partner firm over in Manchester, just 1 person really drove this, and bit by bit got the other partners on board. So it can happen, but it's harder work in that particular sense. So again, it will be subject to a phone call before they fall into that green area. Hopefully that makes sense. It's about the mindset more than anything else than the size of the business, but it's just easier for people if they fall into that green area. So I'm not going to lie, I'm not holding anything back here. To qualify to attend, you've got to be in line with our values. Our values in a nutshell are, you've got to be the type of person that takes action, own it, run with it. You've got to share our views in, you know, sensational service, wowing people internally. There's 3 wows there. We want to wow our team internally, you know, go over and above for each other, wow our customers, but also wow our suppliers as well. It's about having fun as well with serious intent. Business should be something that you enjoy and your team enjoy it as well. Keep evolving, keep developing, but also stretch yourself outside your comfort zone and take action and do stuff with what you've learnt. And ultimately share our views on, you know, it's about making lives better. Everything from, you know, from our clients, every little thing that we do, right through to the global goals. So if you share those values, fantastic. If you're prepared to take action, if you need to be a partner. If you're just a team member that, sorry, I don't mean that sound derogatory, just a team member, but what most team members feel when they get back to their practice, they can't then get their partner on board with the stuff that they'd like to start doing. So it needs to be a partner, but you are more than welcome to bring all of your team along if you want to do that. If you're in the top 20, then you're outside of our target market as well. If you are interested in this, just stay behind for 7 minutes at the end. What I need to know now is, are you in or not? Do you want to come to Masterclass? If so, I'll give you the invitation at the end. So just right now, give me an I'm in. This is something I'm really interested in. I'm not holding you to that because I've still not shared the fee, although it's a total refundable deposit of £97. But give me the I'm in the box right now if that's something that you're going to be doing. Okay, so getting a few in there now. I'd like to see a few more if that's something that you're interested. Right, okay, so that's great. That's brilliant. Okay. Yeah, Mike, get that. Yeah, you were obviously at the last one as well, so that's fantastic. Sam, we will transfer yours as well. Shabazz, thank you for that. I attended in October. Oh, it's disappeared off my screen now, but you were saying something very nice about highly recommending AVM, but I've had some other things going there now that I've pushed that off screen. So, okay, well, listen, thank you very much. All of you said I'm in. Just hang fire at the very end. Now, I apologise profusely. I've gone over, but what I would like to do now is just continue the last few slides on this value one. So if you can spare me a few extra moments, that'd be fantastic. So what did the people have in common that did the business advisory one? Well, first of all, on their websites, they didn't sell the pieces of the jigsaw. You know, most people say we do payroll, we accounts, tax planning, even if it's business advisory, stuff like that. They just say these are features. They're the pieces of the overall big picture. So what they do is they describe that ultimately they help people get from where they are now to where they want to be. You know, doing their compliance accounts is just a natural part of that, doing payroll, doing bookkeeping, but ultimately tax planning, business advisory, all those extra things all fold into it. So they create a package. Rather than selling all the features, they create a package which is all of those things bundled in. And they put it into just 3 packages so people got those 3 choices. This makes life easier for them. So rather than selling 100+ products, they've just narrowed it down to 3 choices, which are much easier to explain. You can explain the outcomes as well. You explain the value that they'll get from that. You give them the 3 choices. You do a top-down principle so that when you say the next one, you start talking about what they won't get. People don't like to think that they're missing out on something. The reason it's 3 choices, not 2 choices, because you need an anchor. So this is my all singing, all dancing. Maybe not that's right for you, but here's my next one down. And by having that third option, that anchor at the very top, people are much more likely to go for your middle option. If you just have 2, chances are they'll go for the lower option, if at all. And don't prejudge as well. You know, you must, and all of these do, they talk through every single one of their prospective clients, their 3 levels of service in that order. They don't prejudge and think, well, this is probably not right for them, so I'll not waste the time. They talk through it anyway. They don't compete on price. You know, ultimately, cheap is never great and great is never cheap. If you're trying to undercut the accountant up the road, that's the perception that the people who are working with you are going to have. They tap into different types of software tools. Now, I've just obviously poured lots out there. Some of them are AVN tools that enable you to have better quality conversations, deliver much more value, but there are other tools out there that will also help with that as well. So it's not just about AVN tools, although obviously we design stuff that helps with that. There are things out there as well, but using the tools at your disposal to have better quality conversations with clients is going to engage them in those types of quality conversations. That's going to lead to additional work for you. They map out their customer journey. So right from the very beginning, every single interaction that they may have with them, they map that out in advance and think, how can I add much more value to every single stage in this process? So I'm giving you a bit of a flavor here. So maybe in that needs analysis section at the very beginning, the accountant asks them, what are your personal goals? What do you really want to get out of your business? What are the current challenges? All of those things. They'll come up with a fixed price agreement. They'll send out welcome packs, and they'll have a specific onboarding process as well. So that's just in the very beginning. We've spent time to think, what do I want to achieve right early doors as that first impression? Anytime a client visits their practice, or even the other way around, they'll map out, what's this going to look like? What can we do to make this a real big wow? So they might send them the map and directions, and sometimes even a video of driving in the car up to the office if it's difficult to find. They'll reserve the car park space for them with a sign that says, we welcome Shane Lucas, or whatever it is. So they think through this entire process. If for their meetings, they'll have a meeting agenda that obviously go through different things, but they'll send this out in advance so they can see what they're going to go through, strengths and weaknesses with me. They're going to give me some opportunities to consider. Trend analysis, they'll also emphasize, we will be asking you for referrals as well. We want to work with more people just like you, so who do you know that fits that description? And they'll go through, again, going through things like strengths and weaknesses, trend analysis, opportunities, what if analysis, those things. And most of our AVN accountants that have applied for this have got full access to the AVN suite of tools, of course. That includes the numbers folder, which is a proven methodology to really help add value to the business, the client's business. Just for completeness on here as well, I want to share what Jackie at JDH did. I think we shared this in a recent webinar with her as well, but she created a calendar that was unique to at least all of her year-end periods that she then sent out to every single one of her clients. So it wasn't just the one calendar, it was dependent on when the client's year-end was. And in this then, she had things like, a Christmas cracker style joke of the day, joke of the month, specific reminders in there, and throughout the calendar then there are different reminders of things like bringing your books in for this and etc., so that they've got those reminders. And then at the bottom they've got little did you knows about extra work that they could do for them, whether it's bookkeeping or whether it's tax planning or right through to advisory services as well. Yes, you can, Kevin. And also, of course, they recognise that whatever wowed somebody yesterday is the expected norm today. So to keep raising that bar, they look at this customer journey on a regular basis and think, what else can we do now? What can we do to make that experience even better the next time they come? And they look at these things on a regular basis. So they are the elements that all of those award entrants had in common that ultimately led to them delivering much more value to their clients. Now, I've only talked about the first three elements of the roadmap, but what we find is that in those three elements, we see people start to achieve a more efficient practice. That balance changes again so that they're working less hours, they're earning much more income than they were before, and they're starting to enjoy what they do now, and they've managed to get that nice balance between family, friends, and health as well. Yes, Stuart, by all means. Now, that just begs the question, okay, so if I do that, how do I grow the practice without that then burdening my time again? That's where the rest of those roadmaps come in. So from gearing and automation really focus on scaling. Obviously, I'm not talking about those in this particular one right now. This particular webinar, the content in this was about just achieving that much better capacity right now. And that's really about achieving that lifestyle type of practice. Okay, I said that I would also give you this bonus at the end. Now, what this is a practice diagnostic tool that I created a few months ago now, and I've had some fantastic feedback from the people who've gone through this. In fact, oh, thank you, Joanne, you're getting off, appreciate that. Fantastic feedback from the people who've gone through it. It's just an online diagnostic, so it's not something I need to get involved with you. It asks you a series of questions, and it gives you basically a chart that shows how strong you are in different areas of your practice, and then it will give you some recommendations within that comprehensive report on what you can do to improve on those different areas, and it will give you some specific actions. Can you give me a yes in the box right now if that's something that you will commit to going through online, and that'll give you that extra bonus? The reason I'm asking, yeah, that's perfect. Okay, so lots of people saying yes straight away. Okay, now following this webinar, I will send out an email with the link to complete that for you. Okay, so I'll do that. Right, are there any questions? I appreciate those that I've said I'm in, I've asked to Angaran. Are there any questions on the content that I've delivered so far? And if there aren't, oh, hang on, I have to go. That's fair enough, Roy. Thank you very much for that. If, just like Roy has, and I appreciate that feedback, and some of the others have said it's been fantastic. If you are leaving right now, if you weren't one of those IMINs, just give us a little bit of feedback as to how you found this webinar. I always appreciate that. If I was delivering to a live audience, I'd probably get some kind of applause, and I could gauge value from that. So please do put something in the box for me right now. As you're going. Right, those of you who said that you'd stay behind for the admin part on the IMINs. I've got an extra little bonus here, and really what I'd like to do is, it's a bit of a reward for action, if you like. I talked about the importance of having that clear strategy in place, didn't Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Stuart. Thank you, John. Fast clapping. Thanks, Mike. Right, so I talked about the importance of having a clear strategy in place. What I'm offering for the people who commit right now to that masterclass, as in whilst I'm on this session with you, is that I will give you a free 40-minute strategy session. That can be in the form of a video conference style one or on the phone, whichever your preference is. And as I say, really, it's a reward for immediate action. I mentioned earlier, didn't I, that I'd had this fantastic testimonial from Phil. I know some of the people who've been on this webinar as well have attended the last masterclass as well, and they're given some wonderful praise for it. Just as a reminder as well, lots of people out there say that the masterclass is definitely worth attending. I shared with you the qualifying criteria. If you fit with that, and most importantly, that you're prepared to take action, then ultimately the masterclass is for you. So, the offers are, it's £97 if you commit today, and that £97 is actually a refundable deposit. Really, all you're doing is saying, I will attend that and I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. Once you attend the masterclass, we will happily give you that money back. You're just reserving the place. Why is it effectively free? Well, obviously, it's a platform for us to deliver that soft pitch about AVM membership. It's a platform to demonstrate the type of value that we can give you. You will come away with lots of value anyway. There's no obligation to join, but ultimately some people do join, which is why we can justify running these events. If it's not today that you commit to doing that, then it's £197. Now the link there is on the screen. I'm just going to copy it to the chat box as well that you can then click on. If you click on that link now and book your place, yeah, I have done that to all attendees, haven't I? And book your place now whilst I'm on, and put a yes in the box to say that you've done that, then I will arrange for you to have a 40-minute session with you. Okay, that's cool, Marta. Yeah, I don't know why you couldn't see the slides. I assume other people could, because people asked me to go back to the previous slide. So anyway, if you go and do that right now whilst I'm on, you can't click on the link. Just try copying the link then and paste it into your browser if you can't click on that link. I'm not sure why you can't. Normally it just shows a hyperlink, but yeah, if you just copy and paste that into your browser, then that should definitely work.